Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sandy Smith, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Lieutenant Anthony Marr. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSLs and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial and students on behalf of Carina State School from Carindale, Queensland, and Australian Defence Force cadets from across Australia. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is got by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's first World War official historian. Bean landed with the troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Private Archibald Simpson. Archibald Simpson was born on the 24th of January 1914 in Brisbane, the son of Hugh and Mary Jane Simpson. He grew up in Brisbane and gained his education there. He went on to work as a farm labourer. On the 6th of August 1940, Archibald Simpson enlisted in the 2nd Australian Imperial Force at the Brisbane suburb of Kelvin Grove. He joined a training battalion. After training and then pre-embarkation leave, on the 8th of April 1941, he embarked from Sydney for overseas service. Arriving in the Middle East in early March, Private Simpson trained in Palestine. In September, he was transferred to the 2nd 9th Battalion. After defending Tobruk, the battalion joined the forces garrisoning Syria and then returned to Palestine in early January 1942. The following month, the 2nd 9th Battalion was withdrawn to Australia, along with the majority of the 2nd Australian Imperial Force, in response to Japan's entry into the war. Private Simpson returned to Australia via Bombay, arriving in Port Adelaide in March 1942, before proceeding to camp in Sandy Creek. His battalion remained there until April, when it was moved to New South Wales and then Queensland. The 2nd 9th Battalion embarked from Brisbane in early August. The men were being sent to help reinforce the garrison at Milne Bay against a possible Japanese landing. Located on the southeastern tip of Papua, Milne Bay was an Allied base, the chief component of which was 3 airstrips. This made it a key stepping stone for the Japanese in their drive towards Port Moresby. Late on the night of the 25th of August, a force of 2,000 Japanese Marines was landed to capture the airfields. From the beginning, the Japanese were at a disadvantage. The Marines were landed 11 kilometres east of their intended landing area, and their intelligence significantly underestimated the Allied garrison. The Japanese believed there were no more than a few hundred troops defending the airstrip, but in fact, there was almost 9,000 Allied troops. The Allies had the additional advantage of air support close at hand, with number 75 and number 76 Squadron, RAAF, equipped with the P-40 fighter bombers based at Milne Bay. Supported by 2 light tanks, the Japanese advanced westward. The 61st Battalion slowed the Japanese, but was unable to hold them back. The 2nd 10th Battalion moved up on the night of the 27th of August, but was pushed aside by a Japanese thrust. Reaching the edge of the easternmost airstrip on the 28th of August, the Japanese made preparations for their attack, including the landing of 800 reinforcements. In the early hours of the 31st of August, the Japanese charged the Allied defences and suffered large numbers of casualties from machine gun and artillery fire and constant harassment by the P-40s. On the 31st of August, the Allies counterattacked, with the 2nd 12th Battalion pursuing the retreating Japanese. Despite determined rearguard action by the Japanese, the Australian battalion steadily advanced along the north shore of Milne Bay. From the 2nd of September onwards, it was also supported by the 2nd 9th Battalion. Between the 4th and 7th of September, the Japanese were evacuated at night from around their original landing area. Milne Bay is remembered by some as the first defeat of the Japanese on land during the Pacific War and the psychological turning point in the war. While the victory had proved that the Japanese could be beaten, Private Archibald Simpson did not live to celebrate, having been killed in action on the 4th of September 1942. Buried near where he fell, his remains were later reinterred at Milne Bay War Cemetery and then in Port Moresby's Bomana War Cemetery, where they lie today under the inscription, "He gave his all that we might live in peace." He was 28 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left, among nearly 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Archibald Simpson, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières, or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses, barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.